One please. Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Yes. Mm.
Hello.
Hello,
Are we all ready?
ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. The moderator for this webinar, Ms. Anne Kichuku, is connecting. She will be taking over the program in 2 minutes' time. Just be patient with us. Thank you very much.
Here. I'm here.
Oh, over to you, Ms. Kichuku. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If everybody could please mute your mics kindly. If everyone could mute your mics kindly. Thank you so much. If it's possible, can I see Minister? Minister, are you with us?
Hello.
There you are.
Yes, I am.
I'm looking at the screen and I'm not seeing you, and I thought that I need to greet you first before I start. Good afternoon, Minister, and thank you so much for the honor to moderate this panel. Just very grateful for the opportunity to engage with women farmers from all across South Africa. So welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2020 Women's Month webinar, proudly brought to you by the Ministry of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development under the theme Generation Equality, realizing women's rights for an equal future. Before we begin, I want to ask once again for everyone to mute their mics. I was hearing some noise and I don't know. Ayanda Ngobo, I'm looking at whose mics are open. Ayanda, if you could please mute your mic. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. I just want to make sure everybody's mic is muted so that we can hear one another. Okay, my name is Anne Githuku Shongwe. I'm the representative for UN Women's Multi-Country Office. We are a partner of the department and the Ministry of Agriculture here on women's agricultural rights and farming, and very, very happy to be here. So before we begin, we want to observe a moment of silence to all those of our friends and our family who have succumbed to COVID-19 pandemic in South Africa, but also parts of the world, and all those who have lost their lives due to gender-based violence. Thank you for that moment of silence. I would like to begin by just talking a little bit about generation equality, realizing women's rights. Just some opening remarks to say that this year is 25 years since the Beijing Platform for Action. Some of you look very young, so you may not have been there in Beijing in 1995, or you may not have known what it was about. But in 1995, over 40,000 women congregated together in Beijing, and there they developed the blueprint for gender equality. This is the global blueprint, the decision, and it was 12 critical areas that were identified for realizing gender equality. And amongst those, of course, ensuring the equal access of women to education, to maternal health, to services for reproductive health. Multiple 12 critical areas were identified. The expectation is that 25 years later, this year, we should have achieved gender equality, and that we would now be able to sit down and celebrate, knowing that we've seen equality across all fronts. We have achieved gender equality in some key areas. In particular, more and more we have discriminatory laws that countries have done away with, and that most countries have got laws that promote gender equality across multiple areas in their countries. But what we find, as we find in this issue of land, is that you will have a policy for land which promotes the equal access and equal rights of women to land, but you will have customary law or religious practices and law that actually contradict some of the national laws. So this is what we find is still some areas of discriminatory practice. South Africa is one of the top in the world. We're at almost 90% of all our laws that are non-discriminatory, but we still have those bits of the discriminatory law that remain, especially around cultural practice. We've found that education is near equal, at least at basic and secondary education. And we also find that leadership, for instance, in this instance, we have a minister who is a woman. South Africa has 50-50 leadership of women, and this has enabled us to have easy portrayal across the world of a country that is leading from in front in terms of gender equality. There are 11 countries in the world with gender equal cabinets, only 11. 4 of those are in Africa, along with South Africa, Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Namibia is very, very, very close. But we have 4 African countries that are in the top 11. So we've done well in terms of that. We've done well also, including in the private sector. It's not as well as we want, but it is better than many other countries. But we still have a lot of work to do. And I think one of the biggest areas is the area of economic justice, where we have found that for so many women, access to productive resources, to financial resources is very, very limited. And that we are continually finding that there is a big gap, and that at the pace at which we're moving, it's 200 years for us to reach gender equality. So we have a long way to go. The issue of gender-based violence, which we've just taken a moment of silence for now, is a huge area that we need to do significant work, because across the world, every year, 243 million women are experiencing gender-based violence. So it is not just in South Africa that we're experiencing it. South Africa may have its own nuances, but across the world, we have seen this violence everywhere. And during COVID, we have seen an increase of even 30% in some countries as women are experiencing lockdown. So I don't want to create an ugly picture for you so that you feel that we are not making much progress, but just to say that there was a time when we were in Beijing when we couldn't imagine women owning and running their own farms. We couldn't imagine that we would have women, and I'm seeing some of you with special hats that we associated only with men before, who are probably ranch owners and are running farms with cattle and horses. And 25 years ago in Beijing, this were conversations where, women were just the ones who worked the land. They didn't own the land and didn't own the farms. So this is the conversation we're going to have with you today as women farmers. And so I'm going to begin by introducing this very constructive and robust solution-oriented dialogue that we want to have with you, by introducing our Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Ms. Thoko Didiza, who has been a very strong minister, not just in agriculture, but has been a minister and deputy minister in the last 4 cabinets, I believe, as well as serving as a member of parliament in between and since the beginning of our democracy. She is a woman that is well known for her leadership in this space. And Minister, I just want you to know that in the reviews that we have been doing about the way that ministers have been responding to COVID, we have been so excited to know and to see that there has been a special provision provided by the ministry, by your ministry, to be able to ensure that women have access to relief opportunities. And so this will be a conversation that we'll be able to have. I'm seeing a hand up by Tamara. I don't know if you want to say something before I introduce the minister, Tamara? Tamara, is that deliberate or was it by error?
That's a mistake. That's a mistake. I'm so
sorry. Okay. All right. I thought there was something that I was doing out of order, so I needed to recognize you. So let me begin by inviting our minister, Ms. Thoko Didiza, to deliver a keynote address to us. Minister, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our moderator, Sister Anne, the other panelists who are here, women producers, entrepreneurs, and those who want to enter in the agricultural sector, our senior officials, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure, I didn't see the profile of the participants. It might be that we have got gentlemen who are also in the space, and they are most welcome if they are there. It is an honor and privilege that we are closing this Women's Month with a conversation that we're having with women producers and entrepreneurs. On Friday, I was fortunate to engage with women in the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, looking at what are the gender issues that constrain women's effective participation within the sector, particularly those who are professionals. On Saturday, I had a conversation with young women farmers and entrepreneurs. These engagements were instructive in that they gave one an insight of the challenges that women in our sector face. Today, I want to reflect a bit on our history and its lessons from the present, for the present. The struggle for women's emancipation has a rich history in South Africa, dating back in the 1800s from the women of the then Orange Free State who protested against past laws. The protest against land dispossession, as well as incorporation to the homeland, which was led by Abomamu Beauty Mkhize and Abomama Uli Diakomab, are some of those that remind us that women have always been engaged, not only in the struggle for their emancipation, but also on the struggle for liberation and ensuring that we bring back our dignity. But also women have been in the forefront of the economic struggle, particularly land being one of the productive assets of our economies. The protest against land dispossession was not just about issues of incorporation to the then homelands. It was also about women's access to land, particularly rural women. In 1992, the ANC Women's League joined hands with other women from various political parties, different religious formations, as well as professional organizations and women who were already in the economic sectors, to really find a way in which women can impact in the transformation of our country from apartheid towards a democratic state. I must say that that was a very instructive process, because in a way, it ensured that even before the finalization of our constitution, women can make an impact. We would remember that women, after the Baipatong massacre, actually marched to the World Trade Center to make sure that negotiators who will be negotiating our future, one of them will be a man and one of them will be a woman. But also what was interesting is that the issue of gender equality was never lost in the debate and what women were striving for even at that very time. They ensured that the equality principle was enshrined not only in the interim constitution, but also forms the bedrock of our constitution that we have today. Interestingly, the way the women went about rather, to make sure that they gather women's views was both focused in terms of research, but also popular mobilization, where they wanted to know, what South Africa do women want? What are those things that are sacrosanct and that will make a democratic South Africa meaningful for women? And I must say that that Charter for Effective Equality was very important because it laid the basis of what government and the legislature, but also the whole of society, needed to do in order to realize women's rights in our country. It is this very charter that was informative to the delegation of women that participated in Beijing in 1995 to actually influence the global plan of action that became the outcome, together with the declaration that came out of Beijing. I just want to say, 25 years on, and our moderator has given us some of the flavor of the things that we've been able to do and where we've not moved fast enough. South Africa has actually undertaken a gender lens in our 25 years review to actually look at, in the 25 years of a democratic state, how have we as government and the legislature ensured that we improve the woman's lot, not only in the household, but also in the public space and in the private sectors. In the legislature, particularly in the judiciary, the same. I just want to remind some of you that actually, as we went for 1994 general elections, it was actually not kind of popular when we went to mobilize and asking people to go and vote for this party or that party, for the electorate to actually warm up to women public representatives, because those stereotypes of patriarchy, of the woman's place being in the kitchen, were still very much embedded in the minds and the psyche of our society. I remember my own experience as a Deputy Minister of Agriculture at the time, when I went to visit one of the farming community in the South Coast in KwaZulu-Natal. When I sat and waiting for farmers to come in, one of the gentlemen was complaining and saying, "Where is this minister?" So one woman actually whispered to him, but I could listen. She said, "No, there is a minister." He shook his head and said, "That child? Are you telling me that's a minister?" So the woman said, "Yes." And what you found was that, firstly, it was not just the challenge of gender, but also there was the challenge of age, which our society at that time could not relate to, that even the younger generation can participate in actually shaping our transformation as a country. But be that as it may, one of the interesting things that one reflected even at that time were that women have been involved in the agricultural sector, particularly at the family farm level and as smallholders, but there were very few in the commercial sector. You found women as farm workers in a lot of agricultural enterprises and commercial farms in particular. So if one were to look back and say how far we've gone, I would say in South Africa, for instance, we've made many strides when it comes to political representation. We've had women in the local government councils, as councillors, as speakers, even as mayors. That would be the same at a level of the provincial and national legislatures, even at government. Even though we might not reach 50%, but I think strides have been made to actually assert and affirm women's representation in these sectors. One of the questions that have always been asked about women's political representation, what does it change? I've always argued, and I think that has been translated by what women have done in their representation as legislators as well as members of the executive. That we bring in a perspective that is not there in the public, or that has never been there for a long time in these public spaces. We have brought in the way of thinking that is very holistic in how you attend to challenges. And I would dare say that will be the same even when you look at the private sector and in the non-government organization where women participate. Even though in the private sector, there's still very limited women in the leadership of our private entities. But we have seen that where women leaders have come in, they've actually disturbed the spaces and changed the narrative in the way in which things have been done. If you look at education, again, we've made some strides in ensuring that more girls are able now to go to school than they were before, not just in primary education, but even at a tertiary level and graduating. And we would want to maintain that. That has not come about, without the fight and the sweat of the women's movement in our own country. In the health sector, for instance, many milestones have been made to make sure that we continue to ensure that women's access to health is actually realized and as a human right. I can count, if you look at the judiciary, many years ago, it was very much unheard of to actually have many judges, even judges president, as we have today. For instance, the judge president of the Supreme Court, Mandisa Maya, is actually a woman. The judge president of the Northwest Division is a woman. And there are many women magistrates, something that was not heard of before. So without going into detail in each and every sector where we can say we've made gains, we are the first to accept that in the areas of economy, that's where we've been struggling, both as government as well as the legislature. But I would also say this is where also the private sector and the captains of industry have actually been struggling in making sure that women's participation, not just as workers, but as managers, but also as the means of production, are actually found there. So this is the area which I think as a country, we've admitted to say we need to do more. And as part of the UN system, we've actually joined a global coalition whose aim is to champion women's economic justice, because we firmly believe that unless we deal with issues, the gender gap in the economy will continue to remain, particularly for women. And it's not
Apologies, Minister. Nothando, could you please mute your mic? Nothando, could you? Thank you. Sorry, Minister.
So these are the issues that, in my view, we need to address. So in this regard, the issues of women empowerment, we've acknowledged as a government that they must remain central in our policies, in the regulatory reform, as well as in our programmatic intervention. It mustn't be, the add-on when women make noise, but it must be at the center. Now, Lutando, if you can please mute yourself, we can hear the noises behind. We also have committed as South Africa that we would advocate using our opportunity of being the chairperson of the African Union for women's empowerment in the continent, but also globally. We also know that on the issues of gender-based violence and femicide, again, this is an area where we're struggling, which is why our own president had to say this is a second pandemic in South Africa. It's not just dealing with COVID-19, but we're also dealing with gender-based violence, which continues to actually stare us in our face on a daily basis. I mean, each day, one woman is assaulted. Each day, one woman is killed by the loved one. Each day, a woman is actually pickpocketed. A woman is being emotionally abused, sexually abused. For women in certain sectors where they need a job, they have to actually pay for it with Ubuntu Babo. So these issues still continue in our society, albeit the laws that have been put, albeit the policies that have been put. What therefore means is that the struggle for dealing with issues of our patriarchy in our own society and globally remains the struggle, not only for women, but a struggle for men and women, which talks to the issue of generation equality. There can never be an equal generation if women are not free. And therefore, these are the problems that we need to deal with. And for women to actually stand, shoulder to shoulder with men, certain things have to change. One of those is, how do we make the campaign of economic justice for women find expression in the land and agricultural sector? When assuming office as head of state, President Ramaphosa highlighted the sectors that our country will prioritize in order to rebuild our economy. Among these was the importance of agriculture and agribusiness as one of those that can actually ensure that our country goes. He further announced that government will rapidly release agricultural state land as its contribution in ensuring that we deal with the vexing problem of land inequity in our country as a result of colonial and apartheid policies and laws. In the same year, last year, the advisory panel on land and agriculture led by Dr. Vio Mahlati tabled a report to government which was actually indicating what they think are the constraints in actually ensuring that we can deal with the issue of land and agricultural development in our country. As a department, therefore, we've looked at how we can implement some of the outcomes of that committee, but at the same time address the issues that the president had faced, and also addressing the issues that women producers and entrepreneurs have actually raised. One of those, which was a cry, was, how do women access land like everybody? Because it didn't seem like our allocation policy was clear for everybody. So we developed a land beneficiary selection policy, which is going to be a guide for land allocation. But within that policy, we've actually asserted 50% allocation for women and 40% for youth, 6% for people with disabilities. We have decided that we are going to make it as part of our policy injunction so that it can continuously guide us that in dealing with land allocation, we need to ensure that women are the beneficiaries equally than other people in the sector. Secondly, we developed the producer support model. This is a model that we thought it was necessary to develop so that it can guide us how do we support women who operate at a family or subsistence level, smallholder, medium, and mega farmers, because their needs in terms of support will vary from where you are participating at a given time. We also made sure that we worked with the Department of Trade and Industry to develop a poultry and sugar master plan so that we can clearly say in these subsectors in agriculture, how do we actually create a plan that will have a buy-in from everybody in the industry on how we need to support these sectors, both in terms of the local and the external market. The other one is what we're busy with, the agriculture and agribusiness master plan. Before the end of September, we will be advertising the land that will be released by the state for allocation to would-be beneficiaries. And I hope that women who are here and others will be able to actually apply. But though these important milestones have been made in terms of our work thus far in a year, we need to ensure that we appreciate the issues that women have raised as we've been engaging with them. With regards to access to land, women in the various subsectors of agriculture have raised the challenges in accessing land either for leasing, acquisition, or even state land. This relates in some instances to the prices that make it impossible for women to access, particularly in the wine sector in the Western Cape, that land prices are very steep and very more. Applicants have also indicated that it takes very long to apply and get a lease from government when one is applying for land, and that our allocation has been perceived to favor male farmers as opposed to women. So government, through its strategically targeted land, has also been blamed that in the way in which government have been acquiring land, have just been acquiring what is available in the market without necessarily going out deliberately and saying, in this current year, we will buy 20 farms for wine, we will buy 10 farms for livestock and so on, so that you can actually measure the entry of women in these subsectors of economy and their growth. The other issue that women have raised with us relates to the issue of financial services, either grants or loans. While women appreciate the support that government is giving through its program that is there in the provinces, Ilima, Litsima, and comprehensive agricultural support program known as CASP, that these do not actually look at the multi-year financial viability of any enterprises that it has funded. It's like you fund this enterprise today and tomorrow you find another one without looking at how the other person you funded in the previous year is faring and managing. So these are the issues that women farmers have raised with us directly in the conversation with them. The other relates to specific support program, taking into consideration challenges that are there in the sector, particularly on the areas of marketing, accessing retail, as well as the trade requirements. That when it comes to these issues, women are actually shortchanged in most instances. So these are some of the issues that women were saying to us, how do you enable us to bridge between production to reaching the market? The other area which was raised particularly by young women farmers in our engagement, and I'm sure even other women would raise, relates to the issues of mechanization and implements that, again, because of price, are not easily accessible for women. I know that our government, particularly in the previous term, we had developed policy as well as program around the agri-parks, which seeks to look at the very value chain from production and how you can support farmers to access implements on a common platform, and also where you can build spaces for processing. Unfortunately, not all of those agri-parks in the 44 districts are actually functional at the moment, which then becomes a setback on how we actually can effectively. The radio listening to
could you mute your mic, please?
PD?
Pindi,
Hello?
please mute your mic. We can hear a radio in your background. Thank you. Sorry, Minister.
Thank you very much. So this is
mute us. I wanted to suggest that the host must mute all of us while the minister is talking.
Yeah, if it's possible, please.
the other area that has been seen as an area of constraint is the lack of statistical data on how many women
The minister is also muted.
The minister is also muted.
Thank you. The host muted all of us. You didn't say must leave the minister. But anyway, one of the areas that even ourselves as government have seen as a weakness is that we do not have enough statistical data that can tell us where are women farmers, where are women agribusiness entrepreneurs, in what part of the country, what support do they need, and what is it that we can do to actually ensure that they actually remain and strive. We know that we've got the Female Farmer of the Year that we run every year. Unfortunately, this year we had a problem of COVID-19. But while the Female Farmer of the Year have enabled us to identify women farmers that are doing well in their sector, it doesn't actually go beyond in order to support those women so that they remain and grow in those subsectors of the agricultural economy where they are. The issue of access to research and technology becomes another challenge, because we all know that in order for us to participate in the market effectively, we always need to be on the cutting edge. And if we are not there, because you don't have enough research that can translate to you improving your production, it remains a challenge that faces us going forward in terms of what we can do to support our women producers. So what is it that we've said in our, having identified all of this we need to do? We've actually agreed as government that in the release of state land, we need to make sure that 50% of those who will access state land that will be released are women. We also said we'll need to have specific training targeted to the beneficiaries, because some of the people who may get the land are already people who are producers. All what they need is to grow, but they might be needing particular support in terms of training that will help them to grow further. But there may be others who are completely new in the sector who may require that form of support. Thirdly, we said we needed to make sure that we also support women producers who are not necessarily there as a result of, accessing to state land, but even those women who have got land of their own, be they through leases on private land or even own acquisition. But how do we support them as government? Fourth is to develop a targeted program for women farmers. And I think here we can work with you as well as the UN Women and the Food and Agriculture Organization, so that we can really say, how do we tailor-make specific programs that can support women farmers? The fifth one will be ensuring that, as the president announcement in terms of the 40% procurement for women businesses in the state, we actually can realize that. What that means is that, if you look at the agricultural sector, we actually buy inputs to support farmers. So some women may be in the agro-logistics, and how do we capture them and where they are? In the agricultural sector, farmers sometimes need, marketing agents, people who can assist them to be marketing agents of their produce. And we actually are the department that regulates the agents that are there in the sector. And how do we motivate and support those women who have gone into that space? The other area which remains important for me is the mobilization and organization of women producers and entrepreneurs. I know that there are farmers' organizations that are there, and indeed we would like to ensure that women do participate and even in the leadership of those structures. But it's also important to have either a women's network, as it was during Minister Lulu Kingwana, when she actually worked with women to develop women in agriculture. I'm not sure whether it's still there. If it's still there, how do we strengthen it? If it's not, how do we build a network as women in agriculture, which we can use as an advocacy tool, but also as a negotiating power when we work with government and other agencies, for instance. I also think it's important to have a quarterly roundtable with the minister, myself, and women producers and agri business entrepreneurs who are women, so that we can understand what are the bottlenecks that you're continuously facing, how can we unlock, but also how do we use this as a platform for sharing information and what we need to do. In the department, in order to realize this, we've actually set up a focal point, which is Ms. Tandi and Lebu, who will actually assist us to engage with women in the sector, but also look with the gender lens at our own policies, as well as our legislation and programs. How responsive are they to women? These are the small initiatives that we think we can start with to have a gender-specific focus on supporting women in agriculture, so that indeed, as producers, we can, through agriculture, realize women's equality for a future generation that is non-sexist. Thank you very much, moderator, as well as my co-panelists and the participants. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. Thank you so much for talking us through your vision, talking us through some of the plans, and giving us very, very specific areas where you are looking to unlock agriculture for the sake of women businesses. I think this is a big area that we are, walking hand in hand with you. But I also think that as we look at the economy, one of the things that has become so clear for us is that across the world, smaller farmers, smaller businesses actually grow the economy faster than large-scale enterprise. And very often we tend to invest there and not invest as much or with as much rigor at this level. So I think for the things that you have raised, including releasing state land and being able to invest in it and being able to look at targeted and tailored programs is very important. We, in our work with you and with the Food and Agriculture Organization, have been looking at this issue of extension work, because in other African countries, one of the things that has been such a strong driver for women businesses and women farms is the availability of extension workers everywhere, so that women have quick and easy access to technical support to be able to help them with their farming. So that is something that we think would be important. We are going to be having discussions later today on the issue of preferential procurement. And I recall, Minister, we had a meeting where you were sharing how, imagine if we were able to get, a huge preference for women farmers to be able to supply correctional services, to be able to supply food, schools, to be able to supply defense. And so this is work that we want to work with you together to make sure that we can drive this work in a significant way. So thank you and congratulations for this platform. We have over 200 women who are sitting here with us in this group today, or farmers, and as you said, I'm sure there are some men, but we have 200 participants with us. So colleagues, participants, we have to be super disciplined with the mics. The minute you don't blink, you will find that you switch your mic on. But I'm excited to see that there is huge force here. So I think your roundtables are going to be very popular, Minister, especially if we're able to structure them so that each time we're breaking a barrier, each time we're breaking a new barrier, and we're able to come out with concrete results. So to the panelists now, we have a wonderful panel, speakers who are going to join us for our program. And the speakers are actually representing different themes. So we have Ntabiseng, who is coming, which is an owner of Botswana Farms Training. Is a young woman, a subsistence producer in mixed farming from the Northwest. We'll have Ms. Mngome Zulu following. Each one of our speakers will speak for 6 minutes, and I'll introduce them as they're speaking. We will then have Ms. Mimi Jacobs, and then we will have Tamara Matebula from the Commission for Gender Equality giving us some bit of an overview about agriculture. But I'm going to start out by inviting Ntabiseng. Ntabiseng is a young woman farmer from Mahikeng now in the Northwest, who is a law graduate, but she decided to pursue her dream in agriculture. So Ntabiseng, you're going to break the myth that one doesn't go to school, you don't go to school and then you become a farmer. That you become a farmer because you're a failure. This is one of the challenges we find with agriculture and how to make agriculture sexy for young people. So we want you to be one of those who drives that work for us. Please, Ntabiseng, she founded Botswana Farms and Training in 2013. She prioritized her farming business while ensuring that youth, particularly young Black women, play a part in agriculture, which is one of the most competitive industries in the country, but also one with the greatest opportunity. So it's competitive, yes, but it's got great, great, great opportunity. So she produces diverse commodities such as spinach, lettuce, carrots, beetroots, tomato, broccoli, cauliflower, broad beans, and butternuts. She also farms goats, sheep, pigs, sows, and chicks. So this is a serious farmer who works across multiple areas. So Ntabiseng, I'm not seeing your picture. Can we see you? Ntabiseng, are you with us? Ntabiseng?
Hello, hello.
Hi, Ntabiseng.
Hello, hello. Can you hear
there
me?
you are, there you are, there you are. We can see you now. Great, Ntabiseng. Wonderful. So great to hear you. We'll give you 6 minutes to give an input, and then we'll have the other inputs, and we'll have a chance for some questions to you. So as Ntabiseng is speaking, let's just put questions. We can have some in the chat so that it makes it easy to pick them up as we go. If you have questions to Minister as well, we'll be able to ask her some questions at the end of the speakers. So Ntabiseng, thank you. Tell us how do you break this world of agriculture as a young person? Over to you.
Let me take this opportunity to thank the moderator, the minister, all the women that are part of this platform, the organizers who are working very hard in spite of the technology, to say thank you for this beautiful, beautiful platform. My name is Ntabiseng Khombokwe. As you've read, I am a law graduate, but who decided to pursue her career in agriculture. And as you said, a lot of people do think agriculture is a platform for people who have failed. But I beg to differ, because I don't think a person who is not able to really think and apply would be able to serve nations with food on the plate every evening, every day. So this is a crucial sector that ensures food security for millions and millions of generations. Now, it's important as a young person, to stand here and share my thoughts, because I think young people are actually the best platform, the best mouthpiece to really pave the way for the new normal, which is basically what now this COVID-19 pandemic has brought to us. It's important to acknowledge, as we have done when we started this discourse, that there are people who are affected and infected by this pandemic. And it's important that us, the soldiers who are responsible for food security, bear that in mind. The gender equality issue is not just a moral pursuit. It is an economic imperative. It is a responsibility of governments. It is responsibility of commodity groups. It is responsibility of every person who works the face of the earth. You see, right now we need strong institutions to drive this integrated agenda if we are going to get anywhere. It's important that I do highlight that this year has been a year of many interesting revelations, from the International Youth Day that we celebrated this year in 2020, where there was emphasis on engaging the young people in different spheres, particularly in the agri-space, because it's a crucial sector. I think what is important and what remains important and what we should really drive is the fact that women have always been in the agriculture sector. As you said, some were not really on the platform of commercial farming, but the subsistence production has always been led by women. COVID-19 has basically said it is the time to be thinking about doing things different. And my thing today is not to complain about what is not, but to actually have a positive input as what we can do. I think in the very famous words of Mayor Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She said, now is the time to recognize that developmental transformation and the true peace cannot come without fundamental changes in who is leading and the way of leading. Now, young people in South Africa are saying to the ministers, are saying to government, are saying to the private sector, are saying to the international bodies, are saying to individuals, this is not the time to be working in silos, which is the problem we're facing right now, because all institutions, all organizations are just running parallel. And that is the main reason we're not getting as far as we should be in terms of transforming the spaces that we're in. Yes, I am happy that the minister has highlighted the 50% in the different benefits from the castes and other things. And I think it is important right now as young people that we hold all those who are in charge of these implementation to book. It is time that we don't sit and complain. I am complaining. I am done complaining. I am now calling out to all the young people who are sitting at home. Whether you're an artist, there is a space for you in the agri space. We need people who are going to write songs about, our food that we produce, about the animals that we breed, about everything that we use in the agri space. Those who are in the logistics, we need agri logistics. We need to move our goods from our farms to markets, to customers, to everywhere. For those who have studied marketing, come and brand our entities, come and brand our produce. I am challenging you who has done soil science, come and help us, get the best way to produce. Those who have done engineering, we need you to come to the space. Those who have done psychology, come. This is the one sector that has opportunities and is engaging for all people who have, even different career paths. I studied law, but I am producing. So to me, it says, this is a space for cool heads that are willing to learn, and it is a platform to produce millions of billionaires. The land is great wealth, and young people have not been taught well. Let us transform how we teach. The education sector, this is important. We need to highlight the importance of having land, but not only having land, but working the land. We need people to take deliberate action to ensure that this equality is achieved. We need all political parties. We need the ANCs, the EFFs, the DAs, and all of them to come to party and ensure that we advance the opportunities for young women in the country. Let us lead this conversation. We should not just be talking about engaging, but we should actually ensure that we take deliberate action and we open those platforms for young people to engage and to participate. When you empower young girls, then you reduce other problems like we've seen with the gender-based violence. Economic emancipation is very, very imperative. And we cannot talk about intervention mechanism if we're not even addressing the issues that causes such things. Let us empower our young girls, build confidence, but bring institutions that will embrace people such as me. I am the self-appointed captain of those women who are hard at work and who are not afraid of the work. Minister, you have soldiers on the floor, and you have young women who are willing to really run with the baton and show the country what can be done when all heads work together. Thank you very much. Oh, and it's my sister's birthday today. Happy birthday, Tlami.
Happy birthday, Labi. Thank you so much for saying. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Minister, I hope you're hearing the energy of that young farmer. And she's saying she's self-appointed. So I think we need to sit down with you and try to understand, what do we need? What is it that's missing? In fact, as you were speaking, I'm thinking to myself, so what do we need to do and put behind you and all the other young women like you to make sure that you become those billionaires that you're talking about and pull many other women along with you? Thank you for your super enthusiastic voice.
Wow.
I really appreciate it, and I think Minister is hearing you.
Thank you very much. That was really rejuvenating, the energy that one needs. And I would like to say happy birthday to your sister too, and all the other birthdays that may be in this platform, the born days today. Happy birthday to all of you.
Thank you so much, Ntabiseng. Okay, I'm going to go to Mimi now, Mimi Barbara Jacobs, who is a commercial farmer. She's the founder of Rosemead Farm, which is located outside of Bloemfontein in the Free State. The 156-hectare farm was acquired in 2010 through the PLUS program of Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, comprised initially of 84 hectares for grazing and 45 hectares of arable land. She currently producing lucerne, pecan nuts, grain, maize, wheat, and beans, and mixed vegetables. Ms. Jacobs is affiliated to SAPA and the South African Pecan Nut Association. This sounds like an exciting story. I'm looking forward to listening to you. I've grown up, Mimi, just to share your story as I look for you on the screen. Where are you, Mimi? Are you on the screen? I'm not seeing you. Can we find Mimi? Is she here? Switch on your mic, please. Mimi? Is Mimi with us? It looks like she's here, but she's muted. Mimi? Or am I calling the wrong name? Mimi Barbara Jacobs. Is it Barbara? Mimi?
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Wonderful. Can we see you? Ah, wonderful to see you, Mimi. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're excited to hear your story. Give us your intro for 6 minutes and we'll have a chance to ask you a few questions. So I know others are burning to ask questions. I'm already burning with questions. So go ahead, Mimi. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you so much for the opportunity to participate. And a special word of thanks to the Minister of Agriculture for inviting me on this platform as well. Now, the escalation of serious and violent crimes in South Africa is well documented and was again recently confirmed when the Minister of Police released the crime statistics for the past financial year. It is showed that an upward trajectory in respect of contact crimes, which includes murder, attempted murder, sexually offended related assault and robbery. Like the general public, the farming community is not insulated from the prevalence of serious and violent crimes. Violence in farming communities impact negatively by threatening food security and the following: the safety and the security of farm workers and farm owners, livestock, agricultural crops, food chain suppliers and consumers. The national crime statistics demonstrate that violence in farming communities does not discriminate against female farmers, female workers and other females in the food production chain. Violence in farming communities have manifested in theft, robberies, rape of women, and the brutal killing of farmers and workers. I had a personal experience, and this is where I think this is the part where you would like to know, where I have experienced the brutality and the heartlessness of such an attack during February this year. I'm a survivor of an attack which happened on my farm. One Saturday, I was alone in my farmstead, and my peace and tranquility was savagely disrupted when 3 armed men banged down my door whilst I was busy watching a program on television. My assailants demanded money, firearms, and everything of value which they could lay their hands on. I was shocked and traumatized and reacted with extreme anxiety. The armed men attacked me by punching me multiple times in my face with fists. They kicked me and stabbed me with a knife above my eye. As a result of the impact of the stabbing, I fell down. I was threatened with rape and continually reminded that they would kill me if I do not accede to their demands. They dragged me from my lunch into the bedroom, where my hands and feet were tied with electrical ropes. I was robbed of my freedom for more than an hour while the perpetrators ransacked my house and continuously assaulting me. They decided to leave when they suspected that the getaway vehicle has arrived. After their departure, I realized that I've sustained very serious injuries and were losing blood at a rapid rate. I struggled to untie myself and eventually succeeded. I ventured into the pitch dark night with no assistance or no equipment to assist me in my search for help. I realized that I could not proceed in the main road as the perpetrators might still be in the immediate vicinity. I ran through veld covered with tall grass and bushes and climbed over boundary fences to seek help at a neighboring farm. With the assistance of one of the farmers, the police and emergency medical services were activated. I was rushed to the nearest hospital for medical treatment. After an extensive medical examination, it was discovered my skull was fractured at 3 different places. I had a gaping wound in which a 5mm piece of the sharp-edged knife broke on impact and remained in the wound above my eye. I had deep and serious lacerations to my thumb and 4 other fingers. This incident itself had a severe psychological and emotional impact on me. Having realized the severity of the attack on my property, my bodily integrity and my privacy, I was overwhelmed with the tremendous support which I received from the farming community. My gender, race, and religion was of no concern to the Good Samaritans, as I was always accepted and treated as a farmer by the farming community. The South African police launched an extensive investigation and the perpetrators were arrested within a reasonable period after the commission of the crime. Bail was successfully opposed and the accused are awaiting trial in custody. The MSc of the Department of Agriculture, Mr. Mbulwane, and his management team and staff took a great interest in my case. Him and his staff paid a personal visit to me within 1 week of the incident, followed by another visit to my farm on my return. Tragic as this incident was, the Honourable Minister, I was amazed with the exceptional support and collaboration by my family, friends, the religious community, the farming community, law enforcement agencies, the Department of Agriculture, and the community in general. I consider the attack as a temporary setback, and I have decided that I will continue farming commercially. It will not put me off. The security of farmers and workers is no doubt of great concern to me. The farming community must improve their personal security and the security of their workers, their equipment, livestock, and crops. However, Minister, they cannot do this alone. I would therefore recommend the following. 1, that the working relationship between farmers, workers, police, and civil society organizations must be strengthened. 2, the investigation capability of the police to investigate and detect criminals involved in serious crimes within the farming and rural communities must be enhanced. 3, police patrols on farms must be increased. I know from experience that police are conducting patrols on farms. However, robbery, rape, and murder on farms are continuing. I'm therefore of the view that police patrols have probably become too predictable. Number 4, all farms, homesteads, worker houses, storage and production facilities must be equipped with CCTV cameras and surveillance equipment. It is important that farm and rural safety initiatives must keep abreast with technological developments. In my view, the best possible surveillance of activity on farms can only be achieved by way of aerial drone surveillance. This will allow for the early detection of invader movement of suspected criminals. Thank you very much.
Mimi, I am so sorry that I switched the program around, so I see why you are not hearing me. But I was really keen to hear from you because I thought that it would be good to be able to put this in the conversation early. And I really want to appreciate the example that you shared, and really our condolences for that, but also really proud to hear that you've picked yourself up and you're looking forward, and that you've come up with some recommendations which include interesting technology. And I think this is a very important conversation to have at a time like this, because I think what you didn't say is that there are assumptions about when you say there's farm violence, who it's directed at. And the assumption that it's sometimes we're not sitting there expecting a Black woman at the helm of the farm, because there's assumptions that these are white male farmers who are the farmers. But it's really just, we thank God that you came out of it. But I think those recommendations are really important ones, and we all work and collaborate in this area of violence. But I think these are very important recommendations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Minister, you heard her.
I did. A very painful story. And I think brought to life for us in this webinar of what happens to many on each and every day. I mean, yesterday we heard of another gruesome murder of a farmer in his farm and his dog. It's these stories that actually hinder many people who want to participate in agriculture and contribute to the country's food security and economy. And I'm happy on the proposals that Mimi has raised. I will share them with my colleagues in government, particularly the Safety and Security Minister, but also she raises something that we might need to look at in the funding of agriculture, so that the issues of technologies that can assist not only in the economic side, but also how these technologies can actually contribute to the improvement of safety and security of our farmers, farm workers, and rural communities. Because the story of Mimi, and I must say you are brave to share this with us in the detail in which you did. Some of the people never had an opportunity to even share the story. They were buried without even having got help close by. And I really want to thank you, and thank that you have not gone back and said, I don't want to participate in this sector again. And thank the farmers in the locality where you are, who actually came to your support in solidarity, as well as the department, because this is how we will build a South Africa that we all want, where we hold each other in solidarity and look beyond race, color, gender, or creed, because all of us are South Africans, and all of us would want to build this country. And therefore, each one of us, our brothers and sisters keeper. Once again, thank you to you, Mimi.
Thank you so much, Minister. I appreciate.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to go to Portia Mgomezulu. Portia is the owner of Portia M Skincare, made from marula tree from Gauteng, to take us through women's contribution to agro-processing value chain to create jobs. Portia, as you take to the floor, I wanted to share with you, as I'm inviting you to the floor, that I'm married in Eswatini, and in Eswatini the marula season is a really dramatic season. Minister, I think you might know about this, and there are stories about drunken animals. Okay, so Maganu. During that season, there is a lot of that happens during that season, and women are at the forefront of being the ones who farm this. So I know that you're using it for skincare, but I'm very, very excited to hear about your product. Matsidiso Portia is also a qualified IT engineer. So she also, like Ntabi Singh, has also taken a bit of a deviation from her original career, but has been working on African indigenous oils and manufacturing skin products. We're very, very excited about this. She established Sibatle Skin Solution in 2011 in Centurion, and she manufactures over 1 million units per year and supplies 2,000 retail stores in 9 countries across Southern Africa and up to Gabon. So there we have all the Southern African countries nearby: Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Gabon, Zambia, Lesotho, Eswatini, Botswana, South Africa. Portia, over to you, my dear. Portia, we have you? Oh, I'm assuming Portia is here. Portia? Portia, do we have you here?
Moderator Lebu here. I request that we proceed to the next speaker. We're still trying to locate her. Thank you.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right. I thought that maybe as just raising the issue of Makanu may have messed up her coming on board, but let's wait for her. Looking forward to hearing from her. Our next speaker, Tamara Matebula, is the current chair of the Commission for Gender Equality. She comes from a clinical health background and has worked in several hospitals, has years of experience working in development, and we have been working together in her previous capacity, working with the development partners, but has also done a lot of work with civil society. Tamara, we've been working with you throughout this month. It's good to start the month with you and end the month with you. I hope you're here somewhere, Tamara. Tamara?
I'm here, and thank you very much. And yes, just to say that the Women's Month has been extended, so it's not ending. We're still continuing, I think, further this week. But thank you very much, moderator, and acknowledgements go to the minister and the participants and my fellow panelists. Good afternoon. Yes, the topic for this afternoon for me from the Commission for Gender Equality is around gender-based violence and femicides in the farms. So basically, I will be talking about the second epidemic that the president refers to, which I really think that this epidemic really needs the agency and the resources that it deserves, because it's an emergency and it's the second pandemic if you look at the COVID-19 lockdown, the COVID-19 pandemic as well. I think Minister, in her introductory remarks, she talked about the milestone and the things that need to happen. And I must say that we've been working closely with the department in terms of looking at the bills that are coming up and how the Commission for Gender Equality has been making submissions in terms of those bills. I think there's about 2 already now that we have submitted, one on the land rights and one is around, the land tenure rights amendment bill. So we are actually walking the mile together with the department in terms of making sure that all the bills that will be passed into laws are actually looked at, or they do have a gender lens. I must also say that the Commission for Gender Equality has been working with farmers and women in farms, and I know that in other provinces, people will know the Commission for Gender Equality quite a lot in terms of the meetings, in terms of the trainings that we support and we provide, working with SSPs, from Winelands to Vredendal. So we are not a new partner and we are no new strangers here. The gender-based violence, yes, I think if you look at the context of agricultural sector, I must say that there's quite a lot of abuse, gender-based violence, as well as sexual harassment that is happening within the sector itself. And I must also say that yes, this is also looked at as the part of the workplace violation of human rights, but it's also one of those harmful practices that some of our bosses who are farmers are actually perpetrating. And sometimes it's not only the bosses, but you will find that in some other cases, it's our fellow workers that are perpetrating gender-based violence in farms. And I must say that, you know, if you look at the employment pattern, most of the women in farms, you know, this is the kind of work that is seasonal. So sometimes if you really want to make sure that you want to work, you need to do some sexual favors so that you can be called back to work in the farm at that time of the season. Let me just start by saying that if you look at the laws and the legislative frameworks that we have in South Africa, domestically we do have the Constitution, and the Constitution has the Bill of Rights, and all of this talks about human dignity that we all have. It also emphasizes on equality. It talks about the freedoms that we have as women in this particular sector. We also have and are guided by the Labor Relations Act of 1996. We have Employment Equity Acts. We have Code of Practice on handling sexual and sexual cases, even in our sector. These are some of the things that should actually be guiding us in terms of making sure that when we develop our own laws and our own policies, we need to make sure that we align with the national laws and legislative frameworks that we have. But because South Africa is also a signatory in the regional as well as international instruments, we do have the Sustainable Development Goals, especially goal number 5. We do have the CEDAWs, we do have the Beijing Platform for Action, and all of these international instruments are all calling for prevention of sexual harassment and all forms of discriminations that are happening in farms. And this is something that we need to be alert and know as we continue to work in this particular area. So if you look at forms of gender-based violence that we experience as women in farms, it's all kinds of harassment that comes, in all different forms, stemming from physical, verbal, emotional, psychological, and all of these things are happening to us as women working in farms. And again, you will find that they do have a long-term psychological as well as emotional violence, because you will find that if it's not the case of someone, and again, I think Mimi's case is also one of them, because she was threatened to be raped in the incidents. But you will also find that it affects our families, it affects our children, it also affects the girl child, because in some instances you will find that same place in the farms, young women and young girls will actually be married to older men in those places. And those women will actually suffer from intimate partner violence, early pregnancies, and poor access to sexual and reproductive health. So these are some of the things that are a cycle of gender-based violence, not just rape, but there are also some systemic issues that are contributing to this. And I also want to say that why is it important for us to address gender-based violence in the agricultural sector? And it's important that we need to make sure that we deal with these issues in the sector, because we need to make sure that we change the way our policy and our practices are happening. So what we need to do is to first and foremost understand the existence of these policies and laws. And I know that many of us have never seen such policies in place, have never seen such laws in place. And I think it's the time for all of us to actually familiarize ourselves with the existing policies, with the existing employment policies that are out there, just to make sure that we are aware. And if there are sexual harassment incidences, then we are aware that you need to deal with this particular incident in what way, and how can you actually report to the accounting officers, for an example, for this kind of sexual harassment that happens to you. And secondly, I think we need to make sure that there is inclusive access to services and resources for all of us, including the kind of training and workshops that need to continuously happen so that we are aware, and we need to make sure that there is strong partnerships, not only with the department, but the department will actually partner with entities such as the UN Women, the Commission, the civil society organizations, the Department of Women, and other government departments, because these departments are actually key in terms of making sure that we realize the violations of the rights, we realize how we can actually align and make sure that we stay aware and alert. And I think there needs to be some kind of accountability. The department of, this particular department needs to make sure that there are appropriate mechanisms through which it can manage the adequacy of intervening and ensure that there's transparency and fairness in dealing with complaints of gender-based violence and sexual harassment in the workplace, both by men and women, because harassment sometimes is also experienced by male counterparts. Just coming to the end, I just want to, just to articulate some of the recommendations that I have. I think the first and the foremost thing, Minister, is that we need to make sure that we have standardized policies that are aligned to the legislative frameworks at national levels. And all of these policies need to make sure that they are standardized across from national and across all 9 provinces, including the districts, so that we are able to sing from the same hymn book. We need to make sure that we engage farmers as well as farm workers in terms of building capacity on gender-based violence and prevention of sexual harassment in the workplace. And we need to make sure that these trainings and workshops take place on regular basis so that at least there is some kind of refresher courses, there is some kind of knowledge, and there is some way of exchanging knowledge as well as information across farmers themselves. Because if we promote this, Ntabiseng can be able to learn from Mimi, Mimi can also learn from Ntabiseng. So we need to actually even encourage not only the vertical, but also horizontal kind of learning. We need to make sure that we are alert and we implement gender mainstreaming, which is putting the gender lens each time we have our planning, our programming, each time we do monitoring and evaluation, but also each time we do budgeting, because budgets that are not gender sensitive are not able to actually benefit women and men equally. So these are some of the things that we are promoting and we are pushing, that even in the agricultural sector, we need to make sure that gender mainstreaming does happen. Last but not least, we need to make sure that there is constant protection of rights of women, and we need to make sure that the protection of rights and the protection against gender-based violence is in line with the National Strategic Plan of the Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, and we need to be aware of what we can do in order to contribute to the achievement of the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence. And we need to make sure that we are always protected from all forms of gender-based violence as well as discrimination in our workplaces. Thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you so much to you, Tamara. I really appreciate that and the work of the Commission. And we're so happy to hear that agriculture is one of your areas of focus. Sorry, there's noise around me, so I think I must put on my headphones. So I think we've lost Portia, unless Portia is back. But I also see that we are racing against time. So I'm just going to use this time, I think, for us to just have a bit of a conversation and see if we can take 10 minutes or so for questions and comments from the floor. If anybody would like to raise their hand so that I can recognize them and we can ask questions to the panelists. So we heard from the Minister and we can ask her questions. We heard from Ntabiseng about the wonderful work that she does as a woman, a young woman in farming. We heard the story of Mimi that is very harrowing. But we also see that Mimi is a serious farmer. And so there is both stories, I think, and we can also ask Mimi the stories about her as a farmer. And then we heard from Tamara from the Commission for Gender Equality, who some people call our watchdog. And so it's an institution that is supposed to really work hard on the issues of accountability. And I was very happy, Tamara, that you raised the question of gender responsive budgeting. And it is something that is becoming really, really strong. And we see that there's a push to have that as part of the performance contracts of all accounting officers, and I dare say ministers as well. Minister, I will share with you that we have a very interesting experience, and Tamara, this might be interesting for you. You may already know about this. The Equal Opportunities Commission in Uganda requires that every single ministry or department, as they submit their budgets to Parliament, have got to get a certification of gender responsive budgeting, that basically that it is gender compliant, without which it will not go to Parliament, and Parliament have an audit list, a gender audit list. So when it goes to Parliament, that won't pass there either. So this is something, it's conversations that we've been having about bringing this Uganda model to South Africa. So we are hoping that this is one way to be able to actually push, because the accountability issue is quite a big one, and it then empowers the Commission to be able to track that work. But let me take questions from the floor. Questions from the floor, anybody? I saw a lot of comments that are really just wishing you well, Mimi, for your very brave presentations. But I just want to see whether we have any other people from the floor, or whether we will just make and share comments amongst ourselves as the panelists. Anyone wants to ask a question? Go ahead, Nonreba. Nonreba, go ahead. The raise your hand, your hand is at the top, but go ahead. I see you, so go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, nice. And my question.
Tell us who you are, and then you can ask the question.
Oh, sorry for that. My name is Nonreba Mnene, and I am a vegetable farmer. I'm based in Niger, Israel. And my question to the minister, I would like to appreciate.
Sorry, Nonreba, we're not hearing you so well.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Ntabisang, if you could kindly mute your mic.
Okay, you can hear me now.
I hear you now, yes.
Oh, okay. I was saying, firstly, I'd like to appreciate the help that I have received from the Minister's Department via the Gauteng Department of Agriculture. They gave me a couple of resources which I really needed in my farm last year, and I'm currently enjoying them now as I'm preparing for the planting season. And because I also had an ambition to grow, some of the potential customers that I approached, they required that I get GAP certified. I went back to the Gauteng Department of Agriculture, and I'm glad to say they are currently assisting me in getting GAP certified. But then my issue now is that the place where I'm currently farming, the land is very small. It's about 2.5 hectares. So I spotted a farm around in my area. It's a few kilometers from where I'm actually farming now. And this land is a farmer's dream, if I can put it that way. Because canals fully equipped with irrigation that are fully functional, plenty of water, pack house with a cold room, farming implements, including a tractor. There's even more land, more arable land. I could go on and on about it, but I'd waste time. But it's basically a move in and work kind of farm. Unfortunately, on my side, I cannot afford it in my personal capacity. So I went to the Land Reform Office, the provincial office, and they said to me I should request an offer to purchase from the seller, which I did and sent it to them back in May already. From there on, I've been left in limbo, because when I ask in the department, they tell me that the process forbids them from giving me any updates. But they are also not contacting the seller either, because I am in touch with the seller and he says no one has ever said anything to him about it. Now, I want to ask from the minister, can the minister identify somebody in the department that can actually assist me with securing this land? Not that I don't have faith in the department, But I'm just afraid that if it delays further, some people can take it. Like I said, it's a great farm. Thank you so much. That's my question.
All right, thank you. Let's take a few questions first, and then we can distribute the questions across. I think we had a question from Bev as well.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Bev.
Yeah, my name is Bev Mhlabane. My farm is called Zappa Farm. I'm based in Benoni, in Bedfontein, and I farm with eggs. Basically, I started this farm whilst I was holding a corporate job as an engineer in one of the big breweries in South Africa. So what we did is we applied for the Jobs Fund that was advertised. However, the issue that we have currently is that the process seems to be taking very long. And I think what I want to ask the minister is, if I see there's quite a few programs that he was talking about in terms of assisting, especially female farmers. Sometimes these processes take long. And what is the mandate that the minister has to these, example, land bank, in order to expedite some of the processes? Because it disadvantages you in terms of getting into the market.
Okay, thank you so much. I see another question from Molo Khadi. I don't know if you want to ask the question, or are you okay for us to read? It's a question on behalf of South African Agricultural Graduates Association. Do you want to ask the question, or I'm happy to read it if you prefer?
It's okay if you can go ahead and read the questions.
Okay, so she's saying, Molo Khadi is saying, that we have had endless and fruitless engagement with the National Office with regards to grievances raised by our graduates in this precious sector. Within our proposal, we have provided solutions that us as SAGA we should have the ministry assist us with. We cannot lose these young national feeders. Please help us, Minister. Maybe Molo Khadi, since I imagine the minister and the team would have to go back and refer to the contacts. Maybe if you could share an email so that someone can get in touch with you, that might be useful, I think. And then there's Nongaba Mosunkutu. Yes? Also has a question. Oh, it's just a comment. I'm going to allocate 2 hectares of my 5 hectares of land to farming and to create jobs for our people over and above feeding the vulnerable. Please support my initiative, Pastor Mosunkutu. Thank you so much for that. All right, Esther has a question. Palisa first, and then Esther, and then I think we'll go back to the minister. Minister, we can hear your mic. We can hear you. Palisa, and then Esther. Palisa.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Palisa.
Thank you for the platform. My name is Palisa, and I'm 27 years old. So I was given the opportunity to be able to farm 40,000 chickens per cycle, but I have no market. I have tried to approach different people to see if they're interested in the market, and everybody seems to be blaming COVID or saying that they've got long-term agreements with other suppliers. So I was asking if the minister and her team could possibly help me.
So the chickens, the farming is happening. So you are rearing the chickens, and the chickens are there. It's just that you haven't found a market for 40,000 chickens. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
All right. Okay, so I think that's a very specific one. Let's see how we can support Palisa. Esther Shirinda, about the land that the minister was talking about, if you'll be using a bidding process, because it really disadvantages us, and if the department and the city will be working together Go ahead and ask the question. Esther?
Okay, good day.
Is this Esther? Esther is asking that if you'll be using a bidding
Yes, she
process for
was
the land.
talking about the land. Oh God, yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Esther. We're listening to you. We can hear you.
As we are small farmers, how many you asking us is it a bidding process or not?
Sorry, we're losing you,
It
Esther.
is really disadvantage as a stick so that we can, so everything that you are doing, if they can, the department can agree with the city, because it really also a disadvantages us, because everything that is being agreed on the department, the city does not know anything about that. So we really struggle on that, or as small farmers and youth. Can you please assist us on that? I thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to take one more. I think there's one more that I saw. Other than that, we then go back to the panel.
And if I just
yes?
ask the lady who asked the question, because she kept on cutting, and I hear her. We must assist them with the city. What about the city?
So Esther, back to you. The question is, you expressed frustration. Esther?
Okay, the cities that this year we got a call from GDAT saying that we have been approved to receive a borehole, but the city said they cannot help us with a letter to give it to help us with the borehole. So it caused frustration and confusion there. We end up not knowing what is going on, and we suffer as small farmers as we are farming right now without water. So that's what I was saying. As I was saying, department and the city have to agree on that. I hope you understand me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Esther. Nomkrivelo, a question about agri-parks. I would like to ask the minister with regards to, are you there, Nomkrivelo? Can you ask the question?
Yes, I was asking if have they started changing the process of allowing farmers who do not reside where the agri-parks are to make use of those agri-parks, as we've tried applying and using those agri-parks. So the challenge was that it's because of we're in Soweto, and in Soweto we do not have the agri-park, so the agri-park is invalid. So we have been having a challenge of using them. So I wanted to know if have they started with the process of allowing farmers that are not residing in the area to make use of those agri-parks. And if maybe, for example, if we want to have our own agri-park in Soweto, is it possible? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to all the wonderful questions. I don't see any other hands, and
yes? I want to raise my hand.
Who is that? Okay, go ahead. I see you moving, but I didn't see the hand. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Can you see money from New Hanover? With
Sorry, we're not
hydroponics.
hearing you clearly at all, and it almost sounds like there's a radio in your background.
No, there must be someone else who's got unmuted. There's no radio, nothing on our side.
Oh, I see. Nompati, could you please mute your mic? Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Nkanyiso.
Yes, hi. My name is Nkanyiso Ngubane from Dugatole Farm. We have been running this farm for about 6 years now on a privately owned land. And this year, our landowner reviewed the lease, and it seems like we are going to have to use a little piece, a little the land that we're going to use is going to be reduced because, I mean, there's a growing demand for people to go into farming right now, and the landowner also wants to benefit from that. So, and in acquiring land this year, we went for an interview with Land Reform in March, and they told us that they'd call us back in March, and 3 months later to let us know what's happening. And I think it was in April, they called us to come and sign our proposal and initial it. And then 2 months later, they told us they came to ask for more documents from us. And ever since then, we haven't heard from them. So what we wanted to ask or request is that if Ma'am Didiza could possibly intervene for us, Ngoba, the land that we went on an interview for, we also had identified about 5 years ago.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nganiso. Can I ask that everybody who's asking questions and would like responses, please put your email there, and maybe you can put your name there and then just the issue and your email in the chat so that it's easy for us to find you. And from the department, if there's somebody whose email we should put there as the most relevant person to contact, that would be also useful. I'm going to now go back to the panel and to say that there are some questions I think that are directed towards the minister. Some of the questions I think can be answered by some of the experienced farmers that we had on the panel, because maybe they can give you tips that are useful. So I'll start with you, Minister, and then I'll go to Mimi and to Ntabiseng and Tamara for us to be able to respond.
Thank you very much, Sis Anne, and to the farmers who have actually raised questions. I see that Esther, for instance, has left. Maybe she will join again. On the issue that was raised earlier, in terms of land identification, let me just say that one of the things I've discovered coming back to the department is that the way in which department assists farmers in terms of land acquisition is we don't have different programs which can assist farmers to do so. What happened was that all the other programs that we used to have were collapsed into what is called proactive land acquisition, which we are actually reviewing now, which therefore means even if there's a farm that you want, you identify, you are not sure that you will get it because government will acquire that farm and actually advertise it for other players who were not necessarily the ones who apply. So these are some of the issues that we are dealing with. I'm not sure why officials will still do the same and say to people, go and ask for the offer to purchase, when they know very well that they do not have, the mechanism of directly assisting that farmer to acquire that specific farm, for instance. So these are the things that we are actually changing, working with the Director General and the senior management. The land bank, I think on the specific issue that was raised by our participant, the first one, here I would suggest that we assist working with the land bank to make sure that the farmer can actually get the farm that she had identified. Bev raised the issue of the jobs fund. One will follow up that one, Bev, because part of the delay was the challenges that the land bank had experienced, and those have been resolved at the moment, and I'm sure they will go back into ensuring that those people who are successful on the job fund can actually succeed. Though the mandate currently in the bank, they're falling under Treasury, but we have a good working relationship with the board as well as the CEO. So I can raise directly that issue so that they can announce publicly on how people can actually follow up on the applications that they had made on the job fund. With regards to the agri-parks and whether we can access the agri-parks that are not in the area of our jurisdiction, let me just explain the format, or rather the concept of the agri-park, why it was thought as an ideal way of assisting farmers. Agri-park really seeks to look at the various interventions that we can have in assisting farmers, such as the producer support facilities, which are called the FSPUs, where you can have machinery together and the inputs that farmers can access in the locality and be able to produce. And also farmers who actually may want to farm in your tunnels, they can be assisted with infrastructure to be able to do so. The aim is that at the end, you can have the number of farmers in a 30-kilometer radius that can be assisted where there's a need for a pack house or maybe a processing plant. You can then build that, so that forms a park in its totality. Part of the weaknesses in what happened in the implementation of this program, what was good, maybe let me start there, is that conceptually and also working with the municipalities was ensuring that we could actually syndicate resources that are there in the municipality and provincial and national government to be able to support these farmers who fall within these various identified radiuses that were there. But the unfortunate part is that part of the contribution of the municipalities was land that they have, some of which was not big enough, could not take a number of farmers. And that is why it becomes difficult that some of those municipalities will accept people who come from the different municipal areas, because the aim was to actually target and support farmers in that locality. Whether there could be a new agri-park in the Soweto area, I think that could be examined working with the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development and the Metro to see whether there could be something like that that can be developed. What type of support can the city, can the province do so that those farmers are collectively supported? There was an issue raised about working with the city and the borehole. I would actually suggest that maybe in the email there, Thandi Moyo will put her email so that we can send specifically what the issues are. I couldn't pick up that the department had said she must get a borehole and the city said they don't know anything about the borehole. I'm not sure how that would have happened in any way. But there might be a reason, which if we get details on it, we can be able to follow up. On the issue of Dugatole farm, again, I would actually say to the farmer who asked this question, can drop the email to Thandi and we can see what it is that we can do. With regard to Palisa, on the 40,000 chickens, I would actually suggest that we put her in touch with the National Agricultural Marketing Council so that they can assist her in getting markets for her birds. I have answered all the questions that were raised with me, Chairperson. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And I also see, as I go to our other panelists, I also see that Ms. Vuyo Matlati is with us. And of course, she was the chair of the Presidential Land Advisory Panel that the president had set up on this, and we worked together with women to look at the issues of land. And I just thought I'd recognize Sis Vuyo because she's done very significant work here. So I don't know. Vuyo, you want to say hi and smile? Do you have anything to add on the land issue? Otherwise, I will go to our panelists to see whether they can respond. Yes? So
no, just to congratulate the minister and you for the facilitation. I think we are very excited that the bill is moving forward, and that we now at least will have certainty in terms of women.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that, I'm very happy also that the minister is dealing with the issue of land acquisition and allocation. I really think, Minister, more attention needs to be paid on this because there's a lot of confusion around it. Thank you for actually addressing it.
Thank you so much, Sister, for being here as well. So let's start with you, Ntabiseng. And it's a couple of things. One is just really a reflection of everything that you've heard. This will be your closing remarks. So just a comment about that, but also just to see if there's any word of encouragement you could give to any one of those who's raising questions. For someone like Palisa, who's asking, she's a young woman, she's asking, I'm new in this field. How do I get a market for my chickens? So Ntabiseng?
Thank you, moderator, for the opportunity. I think Palisa's case has just highlighted one of the most important things that we sometimes tend to overlook. The fact that we encourage people to enter, but they only get stuck in the primary production side of it. This is basically just to say we're also not moving rapidly or quick enough to then move to the second leg of this production, the value-adding chain. I think people like Palisa who have the production capacity should be then empowered to have processing plants for their chicken, converting that meat to, polonies, to portions and all of that. I mean, it's incredible that you have such a young person who's able to really, produce at that scale. But it's another thing for us to say, hey, Palisa, let us look at the value chain of what you're already producing. Earlier, when the minister opened with her remarks, she mentioned something very important. She spoke of WAD, which is Women in Agriculture and Rural Development. We also have something similar. It's called YARD, Youth in Agriculture and Rural Development. But these are just programs within government. They're just currently just toothless mouthpieces. But I think it's important that we start empowering what we already have. Let us put in the financial muscle to make such institutions really work. Because if YAD, WAD, and all the other ones were empowered, we would not have situations like Palisa's, where she's just struggling with the market, because then we would have sorted the whole value chain up to where the consumer is able to access Palisa's chicken. I think, as I said, let us look at this industry for what it is. Encourage young people, yes, but ensure that as we do encourage, we also encourage those who have the budgets to ensure that these young women are properly supported. It was important to highlight that we've got women like Bumimi who've participated in Women in Agriculture, and she's, I think, an award-winning entrepreneur. And it's another for us to say we've taken Mimi from where she was to another height, which is the support with, not only just money, but also skills development. Let's encourage our funders, be it government, private, and otherwise, that as we do put money into these commodities, we also upscale their value.
Ntabiseng, I'm so sorry. It looks like we've lost you. We're not hearing everything you're saying, but thank you for your comments. I think we heard a good bit of it, but we missed the last bit. Now, and I'm looking at the time now. We want to try to wrap up quickly. So if I could ask Mimi, just some closing remarks from you. I think there's been a lot of messages of support to you, but I think you also have a wealth of experience in many of the questions and issues that were raised. So just in summing up.
Thank you so much for the opportunity again, and thank you so much for the people who, for your empathy. I really appreciate it. It's about, you cannot allow one unfortunate incident to change your life and to change your passion that you have for farming or for whatever that you want to do. Just three things that's quickly for me. One is we must understand that farming is a business, and all of the principles of business are running out in terms of that. So you have to, there's compliance issues in this industry. There are there are your planning that you have to do because planning is key. One of the things that I ask people normally when they ask me, to farm, what did I do? Where how to do a farm? Is much as it is, like I said, it's farming is a business. So you have to plan. One question, number one would be is what do you want to farm with? Because what do you want to farm with speaks to location, speaks to water resources. If you want to say livestock, it needs felt, it needs water as well. If you want to say crop farming, then crop farming is very important. Water is very important in terms of that.
Mute your mic,
It
Selina.
ensures your success.
Selina, please mute your mic. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, Mimi.
So it's very important. Then the other question that links up with the first question of what you want to farm with is how big do you want to go? That also speaks to what are the markets that you foresee. And like I said, in your planning is who's your market? How far are you from your current market? How accessible are those markets to you? What are the challenges, the obstacles that faces you in a specific location, for instance? Now, you want to do something as much possible that will ensure that you do have maximum income, because farming is about, it's not only the love of farming, but it's also about getting involved in the economy and making a substantial difference in the economy and in GDP. We also speaks to creating jobs in a specific market. So what you want to farm with, where you want to go, all of those things are very important. So, and what is also important is, and I heard the young lady ask about the parks, and those are governments help to farmers to ensure that your produce are being sold or bought by people. But as a farmer and as a business owner, you need to ensure that your product receives, that you first and foremost, that you are producing a good quality product that as well as because remember we are in the international market and we can export and I mean the sky is not even the limit to the fact that you can export your produce to anywhere in the world. Having said that, once again, look at your planning as to what you want to do, where you want to go. It's not, it doesn't bring in money to just farm, off and, you have to really be serious in what you're doing. Otherwise, you're losing money, just in short. And then to comply with the different industries, my take on it, and it's very important that we understand that you shouldn't just stay an emerging farmer. You need to grow into a commercial entity. And in getting there, you need to do the right things. comply, make sure that your like I said, your product is of good quality. Make sure that the people know about you in your immediate environment, because it doesn't help you wanting to sell to a different province when in your own province you are not even well known, or you don't your product is not of a good standard. So in all of these issues, farming is a very lucrative business also, but you've got to do it right. There are challenges, but it is also very important that you follow guidelines. The Department of Agriculture and my experience is that these guys are really clued up. They assist you. You need to, as much as you need to tab in on their knowledge to make sure that you succeed in what you're doing, and they are there, they're willing and able to help. I have, since I've started farming, now that is more than 8 years ago, I've always called in expert help, and they've always been more than willing to share best practices, etc., and also form collaboration with the other farmers. Ma'am Moderator, you mentioned earlier on that we can learn from each other, form groups where you share best practices, etc. And then I need to just ask the minister this, because one of the issues of and it is an issue, it's really a serious issue of land ownership. I know that the blended finance scheme is run out, and I would like to hear that there are deliberate actions are being taken to ensure that the blended finance does succeed. There are ways and means to do it, and I know there's conversations that are taking place currently to ensure that it does succeed. But two things, it will ensure that the lack and the challenges that we're sitting with currently for the serious farmers and people who want to have ownership are eliminated. And that there's accountability also from our side or from the farmer's side, where you don't just get a land or we don't just rent it, but that there's ownership in terms of repayment, etc. And that will bring a difference, and it will show who's really keen on doing farming or who's really passionate and serious about farming. So the issue of land is critical. If I can just ask that we have a look at that.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm just going to ask Tamara if she's still here, just to make her closing remarks, and then take a look here. Our time has run out, unfortunately, so we can't take any more questions. I'll just read some of the ones that are in the chat and ask the department if we can make sure that we have an email contact for people. But I do see a big push here for a proposal to have a women farmers network, and I think there are several, but I think there is perhaps request for more. So I think this is one strong outcome that we might come out of this with. So Tamara, if you're here, Tamara, are you still here with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Tamara.
Thank you, Anne. Yes,
Selina, if you could kindly mute your mic.
We always say nothing about us without us. I just want to encourage everyone to be informed of the changes and the bills that are coming out, so that we can input into those bills, because those bills are directly and indirectly affecting us. For an example, in terms of the three ladies that raised issues about the land, Nongeba, Esther, and Kanyiso, you will find that the bills that I was talking about, especially the one on upgrading of land tenure and rights amendment bill, that bill is introduced by the department, in line with the judgment of others. The Concord judgment actually judged around the issue of Rahube versus Rahube and around the conversion of land tenure and how you can better access land if at some point you lost it or if you want to access land. So these things are some of the things that we need to make sure that we are aware, and when these submissions are called out, we can, whether as individuals or as in groups, we can be able to make submissions, because at the end of the day, these new pieces of legislation affect us directly and indirectly. And last but not least, I want to say that yes, CGE will remain the watchdog. We will continue to monitor compliance issues around issues of land, gender mainstreaming, gender budgeting, and all of that. And we urge the minister to actually look at perhaps us having a meeting with her so that in her KPIs, she can be in advance. Should the Uganda model come to South Africa, we would have sat down with the minister and look at how the department, her department in particular, can actually start doing this model first. And we are more than willing to work with the minister in that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tamara. Thank you. Really, really appreciate that. I just want to thank all our panelists. I'm very sorry that we didn't get to hear from Portia, but I do see in the chat that there is somebody who supported Portia's work, who is saying that I wish that we could make, I think it's Cal Moore. Cal Moore, I'm not sure whether you've left your contact detail there so that we are able to see whether others like Palisa might be in touch, but there seems to be some work that is being done there by mcalvin@gmail.com. You'll be able to see it in the chat. But thank you so much to everyone for participating, for your contribution. It's a rich conversation. I can see that it's not even enough. We always want to continue these conversations. Minister, I don't know if you want to say one last thing or whether I should just go ahead and close the meeting. But I am really think that this has been a wonderful conversation and there's some key take-homes. And from my side, I really just want to say thank you for this and to say that UN Women and the FAO will continue supporting the minister and the department in this very work. So we're also hearing you even as you're talking now.
Maybe thank you very much, Sis Anne, and to all the panelists as well as the participants. And I must say that the Gender Commission, thank you very much, Sis Tamara, for your participation. I know you have put us on our toes. You held my DG on the call last year, but I think that was important to make sure that we don't lose the plot. And it would really be good. The issue that Sis Anne raised with regards to what is happening in Uganda, I think for me, that's one of the brilliant tools in which we can really monitor the gender responsiveness of our public purse at all levels, and how it can also empower the legislatures to say no, if the budget is not gender sensitive, and addressing the issues of women. So maybe this is one of the things that the Gender Commission can also look at, and how as a Chapter 9 institution can really assist in strengthening the work of government, but also our constitution on the equality clause so that we make it realizable. There are issues that have been raised, and we'll try and take, forward on what we need to do with what the women have raised. But I just want to say that on the issue of the network, and I heard the lady talking about, Tabi saying, talking about YARD and WAD being the toothless institutions. I agree, but maybe we also need to look at the model. Should government be the ones that organize such fora, or should these fora be in the hands of women and young people themselves, and government work with them in partnership? Because I think the challenge is, if then you give the task to government to mobilize and run these institutions, I don't think it would work fair enough. My view is these bodies must be advocacy bodies on their own, in their own right, run by women and run by youth themselves. Government can assist, but I think the mobilization and the coordination and the ownership of those structures should be by women and should be by youth in the agricultural sector in their own right. But at the same time, these institutions must not make us to isolate ourselves from participating in farmers' organization and other business bodies that deal with issues of the economy, because those remain central. CISN asked Dr. Vuyo Mahlati to greet us. Actually, Dr. Vuyo Mahlati is the president of the African Farmers Association, which is doing important work. And I'm sure she will be happy to have more young women and women in general to participate in AFASA as an organization. There's NAFU, which is the National African Farmers Union. There's Agri-SA. I can mention a number of them. My view is we need to disturb the party. Let's not make these structures to be only male, dominated. We need to actually disturb that party and find women in those entities, because what they deal with are issues that impact on women going forward. But having a network of women also enable us to share ideas and can mobilize as a group as women. But as I say, it shouldn't make us isolated from the mainstream of the agricultural business organizations. I also want to say it's important, maybe in future, we might have to look at how we partner with women farmers, maybe to also have specific focus webinars. I mean, the issues that Bev was raising, sharing her experiences. I know the time was not enough. Maybe women would have wanted to ask her more questions. Mimi, the issues she was raising, Ntabiseng, but because the time is so constrained, people were not able to raise those issues in a way that would assist us. Sis Portia, though she raised a number of issues in the Gender Commission, she's actually our partner as women to say, how do we push from the legislative arm and how do we use the Gender Commission also as a voice for women in the agriculture and land sector so that we can be able to achieve the equity in our society. So I would like to say it was for me a very exciting webinar, and I'm sure CISN, we can have another webinar with you and women again to really look at how we could draw from your own experiences. Today you robbed us because you decided to be a moderator. But in the next webinar, I'm sure we will change roles. I'll be the moderator and you will have to actually present as you and women in South Africa. What is your vision? What do you want to do working with women in the agricultural sector so that we can deal with issues of poverty and food insecurity in our country and in the global space, as women? Thank you very much.
Ma'am Ann.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody. I think that brings us to the end of our conversation. Yes, we're done.
It's Nkanyiso here. I can't send a chat. It keeps saying that there's a problem with the administrator. So I just wanted to find out where could I get Tandi's email address.
Can you put you can't put your own email address? Send an email to Lebo B. So it's Lebo, capital Lebo, capital B, at dalrrd.gov.za. Oh, Tandy has also shared hers in the chat. Can you see the chat or you can't see it?
I can't access it.
She has shared it. Me too, I can't see the chat. Me too, I've not been able to see the chat.
You have to look up there where there's a funny thing which looks like pointed with a thing pointing down. Anyway, Tandy's is a capital C, capital O, capital S, at
Yes.
DA, which is Department of Agriculture, Land,
Okay.
DALRRD.gov.za.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
wonderful.
you.
So thank you
Thanks.
so much, and we will see you next webinar that Minister has promised. So let's look out for that opportunity for another time for we can have this conversation. And thank you for the department, Lebu, to all you and your team. Thank you so much for organizing this. We appreciate it. Thank you, Minister. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Can I please
Bye.
have Ntabiseng's email? Ntabiseng, can I have your contact details?
Yes, I'm putting them right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you, Ntabiseng. Received it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.